All right, here's 14, Lindsay. This is the president, the White House Visitor Center, where he had one of his many press interludes today, talking about Lisa Cook, who's the Fed governor, who the administration, a very unorthodox move, is putting out the fact that the Justice Department is now going to investigate her for mortgage-related fraud. Number 14, please.
Fire Lisa Cook, the Fed governor, over her mortgage
fraud.
fraud.
If she doesn't resign, yeah. What she did was bad. So I'll fire her if she doesn't resign.
Lindsay, in my career, I don't remember anything quite like this. And it's the question of whether the courts, if he does try to fire, because my impression is she has no intention of resigning, but and maybe they'll indict her and that will make it harder for her to stay. But I don't know if there's ever been a Fed governor under criminal indictment. But Lindsay, do you think if the president fires her, that she's gone, or she'll challenge it in court? How do you game that out if the president goes forward and fires her?
Yeah, I think she will challenge it in court. And I think it's also an interesting move here, as he has pointed, the finger and been very tough on Jerome Powell and asking him to lower interest rates. He feels like it's unnecessary because there's so many other of our European allies who don't have these type of interest rates. And Powell said he's not, driven by these outside forces to make decisions. But hopefully, the markets enjoyed, the comments today from Powell surging today. And hopefully that is welcome news for Trump as well, because he, I think one of the interesting things here about this whole scenario is President Trump is really gambling with these tariffs. He thinks he has it all under control, but we're still negotiating with China, which is one of our largest trade partners and where so many goods are made. And so it really is, a trail that hasn't been blazed before to have an economy based on this type of tariff policy. It's not what he did before when he was in the administration, where he did what he is doing now as well, where you have very specific tariffs on copper, on steel, on aluminum, on certain things that you're trying to bring back to the US. It's really this very broad approach that we haven't really seen anyone do, at least in the modern era. Will that work? And I think that's what you're hearing today as well from Powell, saying it's very interesting scenario that we can't really see. We're not seeing the full effects of tariffs yet. But something else I'd like to point out here, and then I'll kind of point in your question, is the Fed has been working at cooling the job market for a long time in hopes that that specifically would bring down inflation. But the jobs market has been pretty bullish and it hasn't done exactly what they've wanted to. And so I almost hear Powell saying we have to adjust maybe our approach of what we're doing now that we're considering for these tariffs as well. But I also think that the Fed has to have kind of a collective approach. And this goes to what Cook should do about how they respond to this president, because they want to remain independent. And they will get, whatever they do for good or for bad, when you have a president who's being so aggressive towards them, they have to have a smart approach, because they have to prove the decisions that they make, how they will affect everyday Americans. And you have a president who's willing to point it out and saying, look, see, I was right, you were wrong. And I think this is something he wants to have in his back pocket for if tariffs don't go his way.